So on our tables, we have some cards. So if somebody wants to open up one of their cards and ask the question. She's going in the front row. Today we're going to do a couple things. We're going to talk about engaging parents, but we're also going to talk about inclusion and culturally responsive care. Thank you. How are you? Good. We're just getting started. So, who wants to start? Okay, Ms. Shay, what does yours say?
It says, stand up and pretend you're a statue. Don't move anything except your eyes. And notice your breathing.
Okay, everybody, stand up. Do what Miss Shay said her card was to do.
It says, a statue, move nothing but your eyes.
Oh, choose a card and let's see what it says. Okay, Ms. Taliba.
Mine said, if you had to choose, never read anything for 1 year or never speak for a year. What's your choice?
Okay.
Repeat that for me, please.
Never read.
Repeat that.
It's never read anything for 1 year or never speak for a year.
What would your choice be?
Read. Never read.
Never.
Never read? Oh no!
Because I want to do both.
Communicate.
Yeah.
I would.
And if I don't get to read, why am I talking?
And I feel like you can communicate in different ways.
Yeah.
You can write, you can sign, you can gesture.
And why am I talking if I can't read?
You'll make do.
I think
But reading is like, what are you going to talk about?
And you just reading. We just did the same thing as a statue.
That's why
We couldn't talk. We couldn't do nothing but move our eyes.
That's true, but we say for a year though.
Well, I was going to say not for a long time.
So I guess imagine if the statues actually had eyes that were not breathing, but they can breathe.
Like,
I mean, what?
Be like the statue eyes.
But even though you use like salads and stuff, but we used to talk it all the time, it's still gonna be hard.
Yeah,
I'm not
for
a
me,
talk. I don't know. I can do no signs too. If you want to.
Mine is gonna definitely be hard because I'm like, essentially I can't talk. That's when I read this. I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read it with my
Oh, and that's what you don't want to talk
Kids
the
don't be doing
most.
what they want to
You
do.
don't want to talk so bad.
Just story.
When you do talk, you gonna have a mouth.
What just happened in this job?
But imagine if the kids can't talk to the kids doing stuff. You'd be crazy. Put your hair out. I'm not going to use it no more.
I just went through that whole.
What?
I was like,
Larry Johnny.
it was like, Miss Tia, man, we gonna help you out. I said, no, but that's the mean y'all trying to be a teacher. I don't need y'all to be a teacher. I need y'all to be a student. But listen,
For a whole week.
darn near, I had to literally call in support, like, when I had to tell her, like, line up. Because when I said line up, it'd be like, Miss Tia, did you lose your voice? Yes, I did. And I need y'all to listen with my fingers and my eyes.
So when it start coming back, your voice.
It's just, I'm drinking this. If I don't
The
drink this
tea,
every
huh?
day, and I'm keeping this cup.
Oh, okay. That's right.
This week off is gonna get me right where I need to be.
I forgot that. I'm just.
Yeah.
Oh, when the
I don't
break.
forget. The kids on that school. Okay. Take them on with you. You get to do lunch and breakfast and dinner now.
They coming.
They are coming.
So you said you're off this week.
Oh, next week.
Yeah, me
The
too.
whole.
That's good. Yeah, we not. Not even
Not
money.
the daycare is no. I love you all. Because you're gonna get.
But y'all got presidents still.
No, we don't. No.
And y'all gonna get both parents, kids. With you all.
You do.
If they do after school with you, all come out to the cinema. Yeah.
Be the one you know you.
Like, why are you bringing the child up early? What, like, it shows.
I expect if you're off president, please keep them home.
They gonna do that.
Please keep them home.
Yeah, they're like saying, you know it's summer, right? We gonna break too.
Find the right amount of light.
We gonna be school and after school. Yeah. I love them. They parents should love them more.
Can you guys see that okay?
No, man.
No.
What do you need help with? I had to take the blinds down off the windows because it was a little too much for
They
me.
need to be dark.
It needs to be darker.
Darker.
Darker so that can pull out more. Cause I'm gonna tell you, I can see black lines. But let me give you glasses.
I was gonna say, try my glasses first.
I think I'm gonna have to
Can
move
you
up here.
increase the size?
It's the colors and stuff, like the light glare.
I don't think I can.
Kalani, someone is calling your name. That looks good at the top.
I know, but I can't make the whole font that big.
I'm saying like the darkness of it for some.
You probably gotta move up so I can see
These things
the title, some of it.
I'm gonna need you all to join the glasses club with Lisa.
I gotta get another prescription. These ain't working.
Cause see, this is more for employment and I didn't. The
I ain't doing it. Because when I go out and treat myself, you
better.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are going to talk about this one. We're going to talk about inclusion and we're going to talk about engaging parents. So we're going to talk about engaging parents from a culturally responsive lens. And so you guys will see around the room there are some pieces of chart paper. And on the pieces of chart paper there are ages listed. 0 to 12 months, 12 to 24 months, 24 to 36, 48 to 60. So I want you all to take a marker and go around to each of the the pages, and I want you to list how would you know anything delays that you may see in that age range?
Delays?
Delays.
Okay.
How would you know they were delayed? So
Look at you, you ready to
you're
go.
not ready. So the markers are right there on that table.
Okay.
You said we going.
You know,
There's nothing on that. Oh, the charts are around.
Mm.
right.
We're just writing delays, Miss Kalia. So at each age group, what would be some things that would make you think that child is not on their developing according to their milestones for that age? There's another 2 markers right there.
Be the same though. A lot of them can be the same.
See, I was gonna put a speech and I thought it was too high. Ms Lisa, how you know it was me and you ain't never seen me in real life?
I recognize your face on Zoom.
Thank you.
Yeah, but if they not by this age, because they're learning at that between that. She's learning right now. So that's what I'm saying. I feel like that. So here I'll put it if they still not potty trained by this age.
Oh, you got it the same.
So what can't do.
What you don't see, that may be a delay. How would you know there was a delay?
So put, okay, what's the right thing? No, verbals do not mean effective communication, they mean to cut it out.
Right.
No, verbal means not talking about it.
No, not top. They not mentioning. They not saying mom. Is that a
Some words, and they delay, on the verbal, okay, to speak it out.
Yeah. Not like all the way, right. Should be able to respond to their name.
Say at least. They're not seeing. Just think about these 3-year-olds. What they did, what they think they need.
I see.
It's okay, yes.
That's a good one. Well, I don't think none of my 3-year-olds know how to dress themselves. 3-year-old? 3 right here, right?
Put their shoes on and stuff.
That's a good one right there. This one right there, right there. Because 4 5 you should be able to dress yourself. Oh, yeah.
What'd you say, Mama?
Okay, she'll be able to be nervous too. They should know what
You said what?
they should know what their names by this age. Only go for the 8
Well, mine
4 years old.
was-
Let me stop. 6 months and 6
I
years
can't
old,
compare
right?
every child.
5-year-old.
5. So I'm saying, they should know by their names.
Yeah.
You go. I'm just gonna put this shit right there. What you gonna put?
I went too far.
What you gonna say?
I really think they should.
Oh, they started at 6 or 7, but
I got a 5th grader that can't tie his shoe.
really? The 5th grade?
What they're exposed.
We put it up there.
Understand letters. Yeah, okay.
Well, I'm saying, 6 to 1. I mean, he's 11, 10.
He's 11.
Is how you should?
He said his mama do it.
He should have been, what? I can't get that out. So, for me, I'm just gonna say,
And when I offered Ms. Lisa, he told me no.
I think maybe at
I said,
5
you
they're
want me to
still
show you how?
learning to tie their shoe.
So that's not a delay.
I know.
I don't
That's a
That's an innate.
No,
yeah. From the parent.
no, ma'am.
And we had some talks yesterday too, me and
No,
her.
ma'am.
That's her only child.
And he will grow up and he will want to marry
Codependent.
someone
That's like
that's
his
going to
mom.
still tie his
You do
shoes when
something
he's,
Mhm.
or he just won't wear shoes that tie.
Or he just won't never move out his mother's house.
House. He ain't going nowhere.
He could be in there playing video games.
Right.
He got
No.
And how old? You say 11.
Ms. Lisa, can I see an infant toddler book? You had one around?
I do.
Things.
Thank you.
In the room on the table. In the playroom. On the table.
Ms. Lisa, so y'all got 2 different buildings.
3.
Oh, wow.
So the other locations right back here.
So they're all of the same ages though.
Infant toddlers across the street. School ages here and 3 and 4-year-olds right back there. Mine is George Street. And it's cross street.
So,
I like that. I like that breakdown.
I like the way it's set up too.
Yeah, I like that. The infants and toddlers over here. I like
Mm-hmm.
She got, they got the lifestyle.
That's the that you're referring to?
And you over all of them?
Yes. At the other location, and then I over service regional director.
Up your good over there?
And your hair different.
I like that better. This was so far. I love coming for all. It's just so
I'm not ready for silver highlights yet.
Yeah.
They have good ratings too.
Think about delays in young children. How did it feel for you all to have to try to identify those?
Well,
Difficult?
so, cause our kids, they do learn different. They do everything they should be doing for the milestone. So they're not doing certain things. What to look for, they're not doing it to report it.
Perfect, Ms. Saliba.
I felt like it was difficult, but then it was like majority of the things we were using, they're similar in each age group.
Why is it important to be able to, even though we do not diagnose any specific special need, but we can see when children are not at these certain milestones.
Mhm.
So why is that important for us to be able to identify when they are meeting a milestone or a little bit behind that?
Why is it important?
Why is it
Because
important?
I feel like it's like early intervention.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps us to learn to know how to teach or what to incorporate within our classroom.
Absolutely.
Another thing too, a lot of times the parents don't always see certain things, and as facilitators, like teachers like us, we can kind of document it, and then we can let the parents know. Because a lot of times they be denying. They're like, "My child at home do this," but no, then at school they don't do the same thing. So now you got to compare your notes.
Well, and two, I want to change some I had some vocabulary change for me some years ago. I did my internship for my degree at the inclusion department when it was still within the Childcare Resource and Referral Agencies, and mine was at Quality Care for Children. And so I was fussing one day because I had this child that we knew had a delay and showed signs of being on the autism spectrum, and just tearing up the place. And the mom wouldn't listen to us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was telling my supervisor, my intern supervisor, that she was in denial. And she said, "Wait a second, Lisa, let me stop you right there." She said, "They're not in denial. They see something, they know something's there, but they'll grow out of it." So it's not that they don't see it. They do see it.
Mm-hmm.
She said, but they're just hoping that that they'll grow out of it.
What about this?
And with that, Ms. Lisa,
sorry.
would you learn in a different language how you deliver certain information to a parent in those state of minds actually helps. It can either help them, you can either hinder them, or they no longer want to try, or you can give it to them in a way where they're kind of like, they may have to pick up a dictionary and be like, okay, what does she mean by that? But it would be better to say it than you saying, I think you're in denial, and things like that. And so when you give it to them in a different verbiage, it kind of makes them want to, I need to know more. I want to know more and how I can help my kid.
And you can't force them to see something they're not cognitively ready to accept. You cannot force them to do that. So if we in early childhood continue to have our conferences twice a year, like we are supposed to do, and we keep communicating according to our documentation, we're not saying, well, Mom, I think your child may be on the autism spectrum. They're going to be like, oh, who are you? And you are not a doctor.
Why are you saying that?
I was gonna
How?
Right.
But her point, I want to say, like, sometimes that your rapport with the parents helps, because when they know that you care and that you're there for their child, then they're more receptive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I find that consistent communication is like, I try not to wait till that second conference and be like, oh, this is that is wrong. Like, you know what I mean? I try to be like, hey, I'm seeing this and seeing that, because if you're telling me my child is doing all this, it's like, how long has he, like, you ain't said that from before, so.
Well, and when should you start, and this goes into that, we're going to blend all the parent engagement, everything into, when should you start building a relationship with your family?
Time they enter
Yes, from the first time that they enter into your classroom, How are you?
Give an introduction of who you are, what you're bringing,
Right.
what your plans are, and things like
Right.
that. It helps.
Well, and then also include them in the conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of times teachers just want to say how many kids that child hit that day, if they spit, if they threw toys, if they wouldn't listen.
Yeah.
That's typically the type of communication that a lot of preschool teachers want, and if it's other teachers want to give the parents. That's not the right kind of communication. So
we do glows and grows,
right.
And then you do the plan.
Yeah, and we call it a compliment sandwich.
Yeah.
If you do need to talk to them about something, everything that happens, we have to think about our environment facilitates a lot of that behavior.
Yeah.
So you may have a child that is an only child at home that is not going to hit other kids because there's nobody to hit. They're not going to bite anybody because there's nobody to bite, and they're not going to bite their mom and dad or the dog.
Yeah.
I don't even see anyone else.
Right, and so we have to think about, and if our environment in our classrooms are unorganized, lack materials, the teachers do not have the tools and the strategies that they need to facilitate an effective classroom, you are going to have disarray. You are going to have hitting, kicking, biting, spitting. Just going to happen. And if you are not encouraging communication, you are not encouraging conflict resolution, mediation, all of those social emotional skills that we talked about when we did that session, you're going to have these behaviors because children, we have to teach them. They don't know. So sometimes when we know the delay, we have to determine if it is a matter of experience. They have never picked up scissors. Their parents didn't let them hold scissors at home. So that's why they can't use scissors. Or if it is something else. If it is a motor delay. But that takes a little bit of time to figure it out. You can't just automatically, a child may be really, really, really quiet and timid. They're not going to talk to you. It may take a month or 2 months. We've had children before that would not really talk at school at all, but the minute mom picked them up and they were going out the door, all you heard was chatter. So we have to think about the child and the environment at the same time. It's not always instantly a delay. Oh, nope, something's wrong. Oh, nope, something's wrong. We have to think about us as teachers. What are we doing?
Right, Ms. Lisa?
How are we supporting the growth of that child? So these being able to see a delay when you understand what the milestones should be for that 80% of the bell curve, right? When you know what those are, when you're planning, you're looking at your milestone checklist so you know what skills you're planning for. Then, if you don't see that in a child, what should you do first?
Say it again. You don't see it?
If you don't see something in a child, what should you do first? As the teacher in a classroom.
Right there?
Right, I was going to say.
Document it?
Document, observe.
If you don't,
if you tell your director, no.
Okay,
If you are working with children in a classroom,
okay,
and you see a potential delay, what should you do first?
Pull them to the side and see if.
Provide materials and have them try.
Provide materials and have them try. Don't pull them to the side.
Don't pull them to the side.
Because that's exclusion. You want to keep them functioning in their classroom, but provide them more activities to build that skill. So after you've done that for about 30 days consistently, it can't be once a week. You've got to keep at that in different ways for that child. So let's say after 30 days, you still see a delay. What should you do then? Then you document it. Then you document that you're seeing this. And then you may want to have an initial conversation with your leadership first.
Right. So
to say, hey, I've been doing X, Y, and Z. I see this delay and I've been doing X, Y, and Z.
Should I say I see or I notice?
No. You can say I see because noticing and seeing are the same thing.
Okay.
When we're in the classroom and we're doing this activity, you need to have specific facts about it. But then, when you talk to your leadership team first before you ever even have a conversation with the parent. But you've already been talking to this parent and you're letting them know what they work on. Or you may have said, Mom, we've been working on lacing beads. has little Johnny ever laced beads? And they'll be like, gosh, no. So then you're going to say, well, Mom, here's a bag of beads and some laces.
And a shoestring.
Yeah, shoestrings. Can you go home? Why don't you have him practice that at night? Because by lacing these beads, they're going to have a better grip to hold their pencil. So you keep trying something different. Maybe you do pinching next time for them. Something that's going to still build that skill. Are pegs, where they have to put pegs in a pegboard. And then determine if you're going to see an improvement. Most of the time, you're going to see an improvement. And then you say, Mom, wow, have you seen anything different at home? Look, and take pictures of whatever little Johnny has done differently in your classroom as a result of all these different experiences. So then it empowers the family and it empowers the child at the same time. Instead of saying, they're not. I know, Mom.
You try.
We've been lacing and they can't lace. That's what a lot of teachers will do. Trust me, I've heard it all. They can't lace. And then the parents come to my office going, Ms. Lisa, what's wrong with that teacher? They just don't like my child. Every time I come here in the afternoon, it's always something that they can't do or they're not doing right.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, you was going back to when you said like the hope for the parents and stuff.
Yes.
How long do you consider what would be a good time? Because I know everybody hope things put in
There's no time limit in the state of hope.
Okay, so
You just keep having loving conversation with them. Because the one little person we had, this little person, his language was so what you would call garbly. At 4, it was that way. And so we kept trying to talk to Mom. We had that little baby since he was like 2, 1 or 2. So we kept trying to talk to Mom, and Mom would just blow us off, not ever even thinking anything about it. So then when I'll never forget, when she gets to kindergarten, she called me up one day and she said, Miss Lisa, she said, you know what? I just wanted to tell you how he's doing. So I said, well, how's he doing? You know, we miss him. He's so sweet. And she said, do you know he has autism? I said, no. Really? I said, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you had him evaluated. I didn't say, we've been trying to tell you that since that day. I didn't ever say that. I said, I'm so glad that you all had him evaluated. And then they're like, and yes, and we're getting this service and this. I said, that is wonderful.
Okay, so for 3 years,
they might not. My sister, my oldest niece, had a processing problem. And I saw some behaviors in her when she was 2 and 3. And so I would tell my sister, Sheree, you want to get her evaluated. Get her evaluated. Something's not okay. She would swing on a pendulum. She would even be so angry that you just thought that she was possessed by something. Or she would be so happy you'd have thought she'd had a bottle of gin. And she was never in the middle. And she kept getting in trouble at school. She couldn't persist. None of those.
How old was she?
This was when she was 2 and 3. Now she's 27.
Okay.
But she sees some things in her oldest daughter, who just turned 5. But because she knew the things that were going on with her, she's able to identify differently. And she's been paying attention to her daughter to see if, because she asked me, she goes, Aunt Lisa, do you think she needs to get an evaluation? I said, well, has she had a developmental screening yet? Start with a developmental screening and just keep your eye on it. I said, and if she still can't persist at tasks and she still can't do these things, then yes, you'll want to get her evaluated. I said, but don't let them try to give her a diagnosis of ADHD because that's not always what it is. And that was my niece. I said, I think she's ADHD. And the doctor said, Lisa, no, it could not be. She said ADHD is so overly diagnosed. She said it could be processing, it could be dyslexia, it could be anything. And those things cause the same behaviors that you see in ADHD. So we had her evaluated and she could read the sentence. She was in 1st grade. She got all the way to winter conference kindergarten. And the teacher said, Miss Huffman, I think Chelsea's ADHD. I think she needs an evaluation. And I'm telling my sister, so my sister's been telling me that. So we get her eval, because winter conference, you're not going to do anything done before the end of the school year. So one of my parents at my center was a child behavioral psychologist. So she did the evaluation, and we had her come this summer before she started first grade. And the teacher never even knew that she had a little bit of medication just to stop her mind. And she's not even on medication now. Because as she grew, she was able to develop strategies for herself.
Mm-hmm.
But when they're little, they can't always do that. So we're like, I don't want to put them on medicine. I don't want to do that to them. But be smart about it.
Yeah.
I did all kinds of other things.
Right. Because she needed that little bit so then she could govern herself.
Yeah.
And so she was on a roll, first grade on.
Oh, wow.
But she could read the sentence that said, pick up the pencil and draw a circle. But when it came back out, she did something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Because she read it, but when she processed it in her brain, it was something different.
Yeah.
And so that happens a lot with ADHD children because of their focus. So she was like, it's processing, Lisa. And if you had a student in your classroom and you asked them to do something and they do something different, they didn't process what you said to them.
Mm-hmm.
So
And we just think they're not listening or they just want to do what they wanted. They didn't process what you said to them.
So, question: when you say processing, does it mean on a spectrum, or just like the ADHD?
No, just how we process in general.
Okay.
When I speak things out to you all, you receive it a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
When we speak to children, they receive it a certain way.
Yeah.
And so depending on what we speak to them, they'll either receive it the way we meant it and follow those directions, or they'll receive it and do something different. And that meant they did not receive your direction.
Right.
That's called processing.
Mm-hmm.
Processing. Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I asked about because my niece just got diagnosed with ADHD and ODD, and they keep the medication. My sister was trying it, but it made her worse. We felt like that, so I just thought about what you just said about processing. So I tell my sister to look into that. That's why I asked.
Absolutely, and they can test it for processing.
That's
So,
what I'm saying. I want to ask about it.
but she needs a child behavioral psychologist to do that, not a pediatrician.
But she have it already.
Yeah.
Okay, so I let her know then.
What is ODD?
Oppositional defiance disorder.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you tell them not to do something and
And
they
do the
just
opposite.
go woo off the
Don't
chart.
climb up there. Whoa.
Big expressions
Mm-hmm.
on the negative side of something.
Yeah.
When they're told that they can't do something, that oppositional defiance says, well, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Oh,
But it
okay.
comes with lots of really big expressions.
Yeah.
So how do you redirect that? You can. You have to catch it, and you have to know, with those things, you have to know that that child is ODD, and you have to know how to transition that child appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know, so if you've got a child that's ODD and they're really involved in an activity, you can't just walk up and say, okay, let's go outside. No, they may flip the table over, they may do
Like a
anything.
countdown.
Yeah, exactly. You may go over to that child 15 minutes before you go outside and say, little Susie, we're going to get ready to go outside, okay? In about 15 minutes, we're going to go outside.
Uh-huh.
And then if they're still engaged, and you may want to say at the end of the 15 minutes, just say, okay, we're going to clean up in 5, little Susie.
Mm-hmm.
And little Susie still doesn't move. Then you go in there and say, little Susie, now we're going to go outside, but you can leave this right here. Come right back to it when we come inside.
Mm-hmm.
Then let them leave it right there and then come right back to them. And most of the time, they'll be okay with that if you've built that trusting relationship and you don't that's it.
Yeah.
They're going to show you they're not.
Yeah.
And they're going to show you in no uncertain terms that they're not.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it has to be that responsive relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So then you know what moves that child and what doesn't move that child.
Yeah, that's so crazy because I never heard that. And I know like most teachers would deem that a behavior problem.
Absolutely. Because it takes more time, effort, and energy to get to know the students in your care than just to assume something else.
And interventions take time too.
So that
Interventions take time.
it
Oh,
takes
yeah.
time.
And
You
so
are
a
so
lot of
right.
people don't want to take up the time. I was just telling
That's true.
Say that a little bit louder, Ms. Kalia.
I was just telling Kalia, a lot of people don't want to take that time. So when my son was little and I knew I was getting ready to put him in public school, I never had any, like, I had no sign. Only signs I seen, he would run out the door, things like that. But as far as writing his name, all these things, he knew all how to do all these things. My baby knew how to read before he went to pre-K, all these things. But when he got into the public school setting, and it was, they want them to, you want a child at 4 years old to sit calmly in a chair, and you want them to not do things such as keep safe hands to yourself and things like that. His hands would never be unsafe, but he would always grope the girl's hair and do things like that. So, and when they up and doing things, so it's like they'll do an activity, like writing your name. He already done wrote his name. He's done. So he's bored. He do nothing else. He's just like running. And she's like, I have to make reports and things like that. So she's documenting. And so like I was telling her, the only reason I really went and did it because I know in the public setting, if you don't do it, then they can hold it against you as a neglect thing. So when I took him to get evaluated, I was told by the psychiatrist, there's nothing really wrong with your baby. And the one thing that stuck with me was the don't let them dumb your child down. And I was like, okay, because he was like, when he did the evaluation, I still hold these papers to this day. My son was 4, but he read on the level of a kindergartner going into 1st grade. Absolutely. He was already doing the things, so he was bored in this classroom. He's in pre-K with kids that don't know how to spell their name, and he knew how to do these things. And he's like, what else am I do, Mom? Like, what do you mean? And so when they tried to give him the medicines and things like that, and I seen the reaction of it, I never gave it to him at 4. I'm gonna be honest, because of the dosage. Right. And the psychiatrist is telling me, he was like, that's too large. We don't even have a dosage for a 4-year-old. Right. Is what he told me. So by the time he got to kindergarten, of course, records go with you.
And they label.
And we're
going to watch a video about bias today. Okay. They label.
So by the time you get to kindergarten, they're now doing more reports on him. And the one time I gave him the medicine, I walked in the classroom and they was asking days of the week. But I seen my baby sitting on the floor crisscross episodes with his head down like, I'm not even here. I don't even hear anything.
Yes. And so this is why it's so important. So when you have a child, like we talked about, that is ahead of where everyone else is in that group, continue to challenge that child.
Right.
Because you don't want them to get in trouble. Because if they're bored, they're going to have the same behaviors as if there was something else going on, and it's not.
And like you said, it's a lack of material, a lack of people in the room. And the lack of them having the training.
Bam!
Knowing that maybe the lead teacher needs to be with those kids that are still trying to learn, and I need my para to work with this kid who he already know what to do, so let me do something else with him.
And if I'm struggling, let me get somebody that can help me. Yes! That's the biggest thing. That's why this course is so important. So that you know what children are supposed to be able to do. And then you know how to either differentiate the learning to a higher level, so those children that are already there can go higher, or you can differentiate the learning a little bit on a lower level for those children that aren't there yet. So that's the key. And when we don't understand that, we have teachers all over this country today that do not know how to do that. And that's why our children struggle so much.
I just said that.
Yes.
I work in a school setting where I'm watching teachers. They have the degree, but they didn't get to.
They have a practical application.
Yeah, they didn't do CDA, so they don't know the milestones of kids. They just know
content.
How to teach.
They just have content. They don't even know how to teach it.
They don't even know how to teach it.
They have the content, but they don't know how to teach it. We have preschool teachers every day entering facilities that They were the local babysitter.
Mhm.
How are they going to effectively teach that child? And if you've got a leadership team that can't support them effectively because they don't have that either, that's just their business.
Mhm.
We have that every single day. Or you have leaders that have 500 jobs like me that can't always get to support the teachers like I need to support the teachers because I'm overseeing 3 sites.
Mhm.
And when I first started on one side, I was just in one little place over there. So it's a juggle. But then you have people on your staff that can jump in and help. That's why leading as a team is important.
Yeah.
Not just one person, 2 people in line. 2 people can't do everything in a program that needs to be done on a daily basis. It's impossible. Because there's always fires to put out. There's always teachers that are calling out sick. There are always parents that may be bothered about something.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But it takes a team of people to work together so that the whole program moves forward with sustainable change over time. And the same thing with teachers. If teachers move from job to job to job, they never gain the consistency of their practice. And you need the consistency of your practice. If you can be successful in a tough program, you can go anywhere to these nice little cushy places and just be like, you think you're on easy street. But it takes consistency. And it takes consistency for those children in order to see change.
Yes.
If we can't be consistent for them,
Don't expect it.
Yeah. You can.
there you go.
Yep.
And if you can't be consistent at your job, don't look for the children to be consistent in their behaviors in your care, because they're not going to be.
That's for classroom management.
Mhm. They're not going to be. So,
I see that routine. Me too.
thinking about all the things we just talked about in this classroom, that's why the Americans with Disabilities Act was formed in 1990. Because children were being discriminated against, and adults in the workplace. So we're going to talk about it from the child perspective and what it means for early childhood. There was just a case on the news maybe a month or so ago, and I think I shared this with you all, where there was a child care center here in Atlanta in Cobb County. So the first thing I want to say is that this happens every day. It is illegal to keep children that are not potty trained in a room a younger age. Let me say that again. It is illegal. You cannot tell a parent that the child is 3 and they're not potty trained, so they're going to stay in the 2-year-old room until they're potty trained. That is illegal.
I thought so.
Yep.
That's how they do.
That is illegal. People do it every day.
Every day.
There was back in 1996, there was a case against Childcare Learning Centers where they would not move this child up because they were not potty trained. This family sued Childcare and won because that is a violation of ADA. Just a couple months ago, might have been less than that, there was a child care center in Cobb County who did the exact same thing. Parent called ADA. They they sued them because that is illegal. This child care center lost because it is illegal.
Yeah.
That is considered to be a form of child abuse, mental abuse, because you are punishing a child
And excluded.
because they're not potty trained. You're punishing them. That's it. I'm 3, but I'm being punished. I'm staying in this 2-year-old room because I'm not potty trained.
Yeah.
But and the excuse that we have no changing facilities in this 3-year-old room is bogus.
Thursday, they say.
Wow.
That's bogus. bogus, and more bogus. Because there are qualifications. You can take a mat, put it on the floor, change that child, disinfect that mat, and go about your day.
But because, like what we just said,
Yes.
people don't want to do the work.
Right. And early childhood is considered a public accommodation.
Meaning that if that child needs pamper change, it ain't How to train,
So,
you
but
gotta
that would
do
be
things.
kind of like, we're a public accommodation. And so, according to the Americans with Disabilities Act, it prohibits private employers, state and local governments, employment agencies, labor unions, all those types of people, but also public accommodations.
Mhm.
And so what that does is you cannot, an individual with a disability is a person who has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities, has a record of such an impairment, or is regarded as having such an impairment. So we have to make reasonable accommodations for children. We just had a parent call us yesterday that asked if we accepted children in a wheelchair because she'd been turned down. Yes, we do.
wow.
Come on.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Mhm.
Yes.
But there had already been people that said no.
No to her.
Yep.
So we have to make those accommodations.
Yeah.
And the only reason that we would not be able to make an accommodation is if it would be a huge, like let's say that there's no way we could fund something like that. Like we would not have it in our money within our budget to do that. So let's say that, for instance, over across the street at Leapfrog, we have ramps and all that, but if we were to have a 3-year-old child that was in a wheelchair,
Mhm.
it would be difficult. We would be able to say no because it would be too much of a financial burden to tear down the door frame
Gotcha.
and widen the stairs
Gotcha.
and or add a ramp to get down there.
Yeah.
So that would be one of the only reasons that we could say no. But if there was a way that that child could enter the building,
You gotta know.
Then
is that
you
something
have to
might
say
have to,
yes.
like, is that something, if they were to call the people, is that something that you would have to like prove?
yes,
Okay.
yes. But all they would have to do would just be come and look at that doorway and those stairs and be like, oh no, no, it's okay.
Right.
So preschool facilities get your thoughts together.
Yeah.
Are they able to say on their website, must be potty trained?
No.
No.
Oh wow.
Because
Yeah,
I've
yes,
seen
no.
that
I know you
recently.
have.
For
That's
kids.
illegal.
Wow.
And they probably got 2 stars from
Right.
I want to say
Because
when the 2-year-old transition and they're not potty trained, majority of the time they get in that 3-year-old room, they see their friends going to the bathroom,
Yep.
they're gonna want to go to.
Yep.
And this is part of the problem that we face, is that nobody wants to speak up because they don't want fear that their child is going to be retaliated against, or they may not have the financial means to get an attorney and fight something like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's even knowledge. They don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know that that's illegal.
Right.
That's why if you notice a lot of parents with a child that is on the autism spectrum will not bring that child when they do the tour. Because if they do bring that child,
Yeah.
They fear how they're gonna
and they will see that child and go, no, I'm sorry, we don't have any spaces available right now, but we'll let you know when we
Yeah.
do.
We'll put you
Or,
on
oh,
the
I'm so
list."
sorry, my staff is just not equipped.
Yeah.
When you all are equipped.
Yeah.
Because you're going to treat those delays in that autistic child just like you would treat any delay in any child.
Right.
There's nothing special that you do different.
Yep.
And that's the frustrating part, is there's nothing else that you do different. But you've got to want to take the effort and make the effort to differentiate the learning for that child. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And you're going to be frustrated, and you're going to be the one that's going to walk out one day, or you're going to be the one that's going to mishandle a child
Yeah.
because you didn't want to change.
And that's so
So you
crazy. I
said-
had
so
no
you said-
idea it was illegal.
Yes,
Like,
it's illegal.
No idea. I see that so much.
All the time.
They be like, oh, they can't move up. They can't move up. They're not potty trained.
The next time they say that, you go, you know what I just learned in my class? That according to ADA, that's illegal.
And it seems like a lot
Have
of
you guys ever thought about that?
old ways of thinking.
That's
Old
it,
ways of
Taliba.
Yeah.
Antiquated ideas about what early childhood should be.
And it's so crazy because they will be out of ratio in a 2-year-old class just
Yep.
because, like, they will be out of ratio in a 2-year-old class.
That boy.
They will have a lot of kids in a 2-year-old class just because they don't
didn't
want to.
practice.
And and then they're still operating illegally because if they're operating out of ratio, they're still operating illegally.
My son just had the call on his son, and I was like, I like you say, out of fear, some people don't want to pick up the phone. They don't know what their next move gonna be. If they pick up the phone, call right from the start on their job and say this, that, or the other. But my son did it. He took a stance. Something was going on at that school. He was like, "Mom, I'm not with this. They're not gonna do that. I'm gonna call on them." And he called, and they came and they did the evaluation. And hey, somebody gonna get them.
Well, and until we all take a stand,
We're gonna have a lot of children being
because we have to. That's the one thing, because there's no place is perfect. There's no place is perfect because you're dealing with people and personalities. No place is, and levels of experience. No place is perfect, but by the same token, we have to all work together to make it better. And there's certain things that can't take place, period. You can't be out of capacity and you can't be out of ratio, period. Period. And that's the one thing that I'll always stand on. You will never be out of ratio. You will never be out of capacity. And if something like that happens and I'm not present, I fully expect to know, because that is not acceptable and we will not operate illegally. Period. Period. No. Teachers will not sleep in the classroom. Period. They do nap time.
Yep.
They do. Blanket knocked out.
Especially if you got a
Right. I've been guilty of it now. A full blanket.
And so we have to provide reasonable accommodations unless it is an undue financial burden or it's a direct threat. So you may have a child. I've had a special needs child before that was a runner. But we had the conversation with Mom up front. Mom, that she had already had a lawsuit against the former child care center for letting him run out the door. Now, we didn't let him run out the door, but he was running down the sidewalk and my director was running right behind him. That is a direct threat to that child and to my director. You cannot, that is not okay. And I told Mom, I said, Mom, as long as he does not run out of the building down the road and put himself at danger or my staff in danger, we'll be able to handle this. But the minute he did, I said, Mom, because I had that conversation up front. Then when it happened, I said, Mom, I'm so sorry, but I cannot continue to care for your child like this because that put him in danger and my director in danger, and we cannot do that. And I said, maybe he needs a smaller setting, like a family child care setting or somewhere where there's just a few children. So she did that. She took him to a family child care setting. It was a family child care provider that had been in one of my CDA classes. So we were able to have conversations about this little person and everything. So she was prepared. He stayed there for a long time. And
that's good.
But the police also brought him home one day because he wandered out of the house and was at Walmart. At Walmart. They must live close to Walmart. But he was at Walmart. Mom had no clue the baby was at Walmart.
Wow.
And we have had children with feeding tubes. We still have 2 children with feeding. We had 3 children at one point with feeding tubes in our program. We've had children with heart monitors. We've had children that are the spectrum for autism. We're going to have our first child with a wheelchair here. And so we tell every parent when they call and say, do you accept special needs children? Absolutely we do. Tell me about your child. Right. And then we say, okay, now let me tell you about our facility. Please, you and your child come and see our facility because we want to make sure that we're the best match for you and your child.
Yep.
And that we can keep your child safe and provide the best level of care possible for your child.
Yep.
And we've had one little person that's still with us now, giving them kindergarten work because he was kicked out of Georgia pre-K last year because he wouldn't stay in the classroom. He's on the spectrum, high functioning. Wonderful old fellow. And they didn't know how to deal with him, and they kicked him out.
Wow.
And so she called, had a long conversation with one of our owners, and then we had a long conversation. And he tried that same behavior with us initially, but we just kept redirecting him. And then he stopped.
Right.
And then she got to time for kindergarten, so she was going to put him in a Montessori kindergarten because she thought that might be the best fit, which I thought at the time, try it out, it may work. They wouldn't even work with him because he doesn't do change well. You have to get through that phase with him. So then we are doing kindergarten work with him in our private pre-K classroom so that he can go into first grade next year, this next school year. But then she still has to figure out how they're going to integrate him in because he struggles like that. And so, but we were able to integrate him in, but that because we took the time and we helped the teachers, because teachers, trust me, there's days I didn't want to. And I would go, nope, you've got to. If you just do this, this, and this, and this, you'll see a different result. But if you're not willing to do that, then that's your problem. And that's what I told them all. That's your problem.
Yeah.
You're not going to do what we're telling you to do. That's your problem. And you've got to figure that out. And so he doesn't have perfect behavior all the time, but I wouldn't expect him to. I don't expect any child to. But he does really, really well. And he's super sweet. He loves everybody. He just wants to hug you and play with you. Children are not naturally mean. They're not, and his mother disciplines him. She does not allow him to just do whatever he wants to do because he's on the spectrum. She's probably even harder on him because of that.
Yeah.
And so we have to, as teachers, want to.
Yeah.
And it's not always easy. It won't always be easy. Especially when you have a child that doesn't have a diagnosis. So we even get our students set up with RBT, so the RBT is there on site with the child all day long if need be. But that's what's going to be best for that child. So whatever is going to be best for that child, if you're really in the business about caring about children, that's going to be your mindset. Not what's convenient.
Yeah.
Because convenience is not always what you're going to get. So it can't be about convenience. And so that's why the ADA was developed, because we needed it. And then there's another law that's called IDEA. That is the educational bill. And IDEA, it's Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And so what this does is it guarantees everyone the right to a fair and equitable education. So that's why it goes up to 21, the age of 21, when you're legally an adult, right? So that is also what regulates the Part C and Part B services for the Babies Can't Wait and the public school preschools, special needs preschools. They all come out of this law. And so that ensures that everyone gets a fair and equitable education and have the right to one. And let's see what they have with this. I was going to see if they gave us any. And this is where the, let's see. Sources, maybe they just have a quick PDF. thought that it may just give us a quick understanding your rights. I thought I'll see if I can find a quick fact sheet about it during one of our breaks that we can share. So do you all know who to make referrals? If you, let's say you've got a child that you notice some delays and you're like, okay, I see these delays, and you've tried activities, you've tried experiences to strengthen that area, and the delay is still there. So if you were to make a referral, who would you make the referral to for a child that's 0 to 3? What is the organization?
Babies Can't Wait.
Babies Can't Wait. So from 3 on up, it is turned over then to the public school system.
Okay.
And it's free. Any services through the public school system, they're free.
So we're able to make that. We're able to say that. We don't have to like say it to the parents or suggest.
Well, I think that you say it to your leadership team first. Always find out what those protocols are, and then make the referral. However, your program chooses to do that, whatever their process is.
Okay.
And you'll just call your county special needs preschool, and that person will be able to send you over a referral packet. You get it to the parents, and then they make that connection once the parents complete the referral packet.
Okay.
Yes.
Just curious. Do public schools provide intervention services for children that are zoned for like their homeschool?
Yes, it has to be in the area that they're zoned for in the county that they live in.
Okay.
And their elementary school may not have one of the special needs preschools.
Okay.
If that is needed, they may, because we have a little person that goes to the special needs preschool in the morning, so the bus comes and picks them up and then drops them back off. So, but that may not be your districted elementary. So depending on where that special needs preschool is in the county, it might not always be, but you'll start the services with your districted elementary school. They'll help you get connected with that. And then they'll put you with all the speech therapy, and if it's occupational therapy, whatever that ends up being, they'll make those connections based off of the referral that you have.
It's crazy because like you really have more input than you think as a teacher.
Yes, you do.
And it's just like a matter of you just like not even knowing that you have like that input as a teacher.
And a lot of times now in those individual education plans, those IEPs, they will ask the preschool teacher to be part of that. And for Babies Can't Wait, they do an IFSP service plan. So then they make goals for the family to help bring that family along. Yeah. So IEP is 3 and up, and that's an individualized education plan.
Okay.
And I always, in licensing, if you have a special needs child in your program that has an IEP, licensing actually requires that we keep a copy of that IEP on hand in that child's file. And you as the teacher should have a copy of that child's IEP if they're in your classroom. And the same for an IFSP. If you have a child that's working with Babies Can't Wait, get a copy of their IFSP. Because
keep up with the accommodations.
Absolutely. You know what accommodations are being made and what educational strategies are being put in place to support that child in their growth. And then you can do that at school. And we tell everyone is like, can their therapist come here? Of course. Can their RBT come here? Of course. Well, we had a program that wouldn't allow anybody inside. Well, then they're not there for the children.
Right. And
You have to have fingerprints on them and everything else.
Right.
And we have had RBTs that couldn't post apart from the start fingerprint check.
Oh wow.
But you do what's best for that child. And our teachers are like, are they going to get an RBT? Yes, we're going to do our very best to help them get an RBT. We connect them to private companies as well that their insurance will pay for.
I know something you just named that I didn't know. I didn't know you started IEP at such a young age.
Yes, you can, of course, especially if they have a diagnosis of autism, dyslexia, any of those things. ADHD.
I didn't. If I had, so that goes with having knowledge.
Yeah.
Had I known those type of things, then because I didn't start getting my son a 504 plan
Mm-hmm.
until like I want to say his 3rd grade year.
Wow.
Because I didn't know that he could get like to start early with me not doing the medicine and all the stuff. So had I known that, then he probably would like he's still on his 504 plan to this day,
Right.
which helps him with his accommodations and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
But that's good to know because a lot of parents who may get these diagnoses don't know that they can go ahead and get an IEP plan for the kid.
And that also goes if you've got children in programs. Now, if there's no diagnosis, of course, they're not going to have those services. But you can help them with other things. You can help them to understand and find different pathways of things that can work. But there are going to be times that you all are going to know more than your leadership team is going to know.
You're right.
So when that is the case, you may have to research something because your leadership team cannot support you in it effectively because they don't know.
So a 504 plan is essentially the same thing as an IEP. So IEP is for younger kids.
No, IFSP.
IFSP is for
Babies can't wait through IFSP.
so that's 0 to 3. IEP is
3 on up through 21.
And then 504 is
That's the
It's like
same
an
thing. That's just a
accommodation.
code for it.
But isn't a 504 like an accommodation within the IEP?
They're all accommodations within the IEP from what I understand. So that may be just what they call that part.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the 504 is for initially like public school age-ish.
No, 3. It
Three.
starts, public school takes over those evaluations at the age of 3 on up. So depending on when they decide to do a diagnosis, that will
It's like
determine.
pre-K or not, because like some
3.
kids,
3.
3. What age do they go to pre-K?
4.
4.
4. Okay.
Yeah. So that's a lot.
Just a lot that I didn't know.
That's a lot.
But I never
And
knew
so-
about the 0 to 3.
Uh-huh.
Because back home,
3.
but like
Everything
back
right.
home, that's why I was asking about the schools because typically it was about 3. But I knew whatever homeschool you were zoned for,
Mm-hmm.
they had to provide services if
Wow.
you had any, concerns or issues with your child's development.
Because here, like for instance, here in this area, we pick up from 5 of the local elementary schools. So Gillette Elementary has a special autism unit. Well, the other elementary schools do not. So you may be zoned for Feldwood, but you have autism and you want your child in the special autism unit, then you're going to need to go to Gillette. Yeah, CH Gillette. Yeah.
Can I piggyback on to tell her about so an IEP is their individual.
Okay.
So it's like an individual plan. But
Okay.
a 504 is more like they can do, if you're learning algebra, I can learn algebra too. So it's like they can't take him out of the same classes that other kids that are high. He can still be in those classes. But see, with an IEP, kids who may not have grossed that higher level of math, they may need to do basic math, like basic math or whatever. So I wouldn't put them in the algebra class because they have an individual plan. So that's kind of like the difference.
That's those accommodations that they make for a child that needs the differentiated learning differently.
Exactly. The difference.
Gotcha.
But with the 504 plan, also, okay, so a young girl that I know who had a 504 plan, she had accommodations to just make sure that she always had a water bottle and tissues on her desk.
Mm-hmm.
Because she may be one that likes to drift off to sleep.
So 504
She get
plan
tired.
is the same as an IEP. 504 plan or IEP.
Oh wow. Okay, I see.
On this, let's see what the differences are.
It basically says a 504 plan helps students access their general education curriculum.
They're both designed to support students with disabilities.
Right.
So an IEP is a formal plan that details the special education services and supports a school will provide to meet the unique needs of a student with a disability.
Right.
And this includes specially designed instruction. So 504 is that removes barriers, it says, so that a student with a disability can learn alongside. So that's a 504 plan. So 504s, they're more integrated into the learning.
Okay.
Alongside their peers in general education. It does not include specially designed instruction. So IEP is specific instruction.
Right.
504 plan is alongside in general learning. So they're included in. But I think with an IEP, they can be included in depending on what the accommodation needs to be.
Okay.
Right.
So like with our IEPs
I
at
knew
the
they
school,
worked
they may get
together.
pulled out if they're doing a test or something. We may pull them out so that, because somebody might need accommodation with being read to.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
and an
That's what I
IEP, it says it is a written plan, and it must include any services the school will provide, details about each service, who provides it, how many minutes a week, and where, any changes to the student learning environment, any modifications, changes to what the student is expected to learn or know. So, and any assistive technology. So the 504 says that it does not have to be written document, but it generally includes any accommodations or changes to the learning environment, any assistive technology or tools the school will provide, and the name of the person responsible for making sure the 504 plan is put into action. Less common but possible to include could be any services the school will provide or any modifications, changes to what the student is expected to learn or know. It says IEPs typically track progress and have goals. 504 plans typically don't track progress or include annual
It's
goals.
just support.
And that's what I was going to say, Ms. Lisa. The IEPs, you got to keep up with all that.
And it says the 504 is typically followed up by the school principal.
So like I do a yearly plan for him every year. So like his accommodation is like he couldn't test right there by that window because he might get distracted by something outside of the window. So don't sit him near a window, sit him closer to the door or somewhere where he's closer to the board, things like that. And the water, he has to do that in his last period because the lady said he fell asleep and his glasses fell off. I don't even think he noticed that his glasses fell off.
Right.
For the IEP, is it possible for you to start school like kindergarten, first grade, and you have an IEP, but then like you don't have
You grow and change as children grow and change, of course.
Because that keeps up with tracking. IEPs keep up with whether or not you're getting the things that are on
And
your
as they
list.
grow and have strategies and have coping mechanisms for themselves, then they may not need it. Then they may move to a 504 would be my thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I want us to watch this video as we transition into culturally responsive care. And this video is called Our Hidden Bias. And we all have bias, each and every one of us in this room. But this video talks about how bias impacts children long term.
Good morning. How are you? Good. So, can we talk about how you got here?
Everybody here.
Stay late to it.
Go ahead before cookouts.
So, you didn't do anything? all this?
Depends on who's reading it, I guess.
Well, looks real good. Skateboarding, huh?
Yes.
Is this the first time you've hurt yourself?
No, I get hurt all the time.
At home?
At home, he hurt himself skateboarding at the park.
Okay, ma'am. I'm gonna have a counselor come in and speak with you.
A counselor? For what? He's okay.
Well, I done told you, Trish gonna put you in the hospital.
Sorry.
I'm sorry too. A nurse will be in a few minutes to help you check out. What's up?
That doctor thought I'd do this to him.
How you doing?
Hi.
It ain't fair.
Fair has nothing to do with this. This is about you taking responsibility for your actions. Look, I know so many young men just like you that didn't do anything. And yet, most of them are in prison.
You don't know me. I ain't going to no prison.
If you don't want to end up in prison, you're going to have to get some new priorities and probably some new friends too. Look, you're not getting any younger. You need to get an education so you can get a good job.
But you just like everybody else. You say you see, but you don't see. You see what you want to see.
I see what's in this folder. It shows me what you've been doing.
I ain't doing nothing.
I am not doing anything. Stop!
I do nothing.
I'm not doing anything. Yes, you were. Get to the timeout chair. Now, please.
He wasn't doing anything.
I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
Did anybody see themselves in that video in some form or fashion? What about every time you look at that mother that didn't bring in enough bottles for that day? And you say, she's not a good mother. She don't even bring in enough bottles for her baby to have during the day.
I felt like I was a kid at one point. My feelings wasn't validated a lot.
And what about, they don't care. Do you see how late they come in? They don't bring them in when they start their day.
I done said that.
I've done that.
So we all have advisors.
And it comes out. Think about that one little child that's the most active little boy in your classroom. And he's the one that his name is called 50 times. And that child might not have even done a single thing. But because his name's called 50 times, he's going to automatically be assumed that he did it. And children do that as well. Just because that child gets in trouble all the time, and they might not have even been who did it.
Yeah.
So think about every special needs child is the same. This child's just bad. There's not anything wrong with them. Their parents just don't care. Look at that. Look at their hair. Their hair's not even brushed right. Their hair's not even clean. They stink. They don't take baths.
Bias. Very biased.
But there's bias I see it in early childhood teachers all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Every time they make a judgment against another coworker, oh, they're not really sick. They don't be here.
Yeah.
I'm here every day, sick or not. That's a bias.
The one that stood out with me the most was the one at the little park with the mom and dad and the black little boy, and the mom took her daughter because it was. I was because that's my thing because they were black or something. I don't know. But that's
Just because of her own bias, whatever that bias might have been.
Yeah.
And because she got her daddy there and she don't.
And the social worker had bias. The social worker had bias because the social worker's like, I see children like you all the time.
Yeah. Automatically labeling.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Every day is a different day.
Every day is a different day. So let's take a quick 10 or 15 minute break, get up, walk around, and then we're going to come back and we're going to tackle why we have our bias.
Okay.
And I have some handouts that we're going to do and talk about as a group.
What's the bathroom with that? Video.
She don't feel that way. She was trying to. No, she went behind me.
I be trying to
say, look at her. She was like, she's not a good to. I said, no. She got it by herself. Like, I know my baby. She was like, I think she got it for you.
So she don't feel she don't feel it. Why? Did you leave them open?
We go straight to the service and we have our service time. Right. She keeps that all the time. And she gets it. Her mom would be on the school and she don't show it's quick for I put my room at 8:15. They know to go to the thing right.
And we're going to do this as a group.
I love them. Can they walk down the stairs?